When Palpatine managed to turn the Republic into the Empire and conquer the galaxy in his name, he promised to bring about an age of prosperity to the galaxy. However, all he really brought was terror and violence. But could Palpatine have actually brought prosperity to the galaxy, and if so, how would he do it?
In order to ensure the security and continuing prosperity, the Republic will be reorganized into the first Galactic Empire for a safe and secure society.
So, arguably, Palpatine's empire was a failure. Its autocratic ways and overwhelming military made it distant from its citizens who grew to resent it. As well as this, the empire's economy was far from sustainable. You see, although the monumental military kept the galaxy in check, the empire wasn't really at war. I mean, granted it was dealing with a rebellion, but that was caused by the empire anyway. The main issue with this is although in times of war the military would be invaluable, in times of peace it turns into a massive liability. For example, the Soviet Union during the Cold War. After investing so much of its wealth into the war, they'd never be able to sustain themselves and their military at the same time. This is a similar scenario with the Empire. They feared anything being able to rival it, meaning if the Empire wasn't destroyed by the rebellion, then it's very likely the economic downturn would have inevitably destroyed it from the inside. But could the Empire have turned this unfortunate scenario into one that could bring prosperity to their people? Well, yeah, in theory. You see, the Empire needed to expand. It's the only way it could continue to grow their wealth, and after the Empire had conquered both Republic and Separatist space, I believe that Palpatine should have packed a decent portion of his military up aboard his huge fleet and headed to the western side of the galaxy, towards the unknown regions. So in terms of the galactic map, we have the core, mid-rim and outer rim, etc. To the east we have wild space. Now this area is mainly just a few planets with sentient life, but they're incredibly spaced out. However, in the west is something referred to as the unknown regions, and as the name suggests, this is an area that's largely unexplored, which in theory is great news for the Empire. So in terms of the galactic map, we have the core, mid-rim and outer rim, etc. To the east we have wild space. Now this area is mainly just a few planets with sentient life, but they're incredibly spaced out. However, in the west is something referred to as the unknown regions, and as the name suggests, this is an area that's largely unexplored, which in theory is great news for the Empire. Imagine a vast stretch of new planets, systems, potentially even new galaxies, hosting a rich bounty of resources, not only natural materials such as metals, fuels and so on, much more, but new lands, species to colonize and integrate into Imperial society. Not only this, but what if they're able to find other civilizations? The Imperial war machine is beyond impressive, and invading other empires and settlements would surely provide significant amounts of revenue. I mean, granted, it's very questionable for them to just go over to other galaxies and settlements and invade them, but that's sort of what the Empire does anyway, so it would probably fit their MO. Ultimately, the unknown regions could host limitless potential, and if the Empire was to launch a crusade into them, then they would see centuries of wealth being poured back into it, and their military would become a very valuable asset as opposed to a massive liability. And I know if the Imperial Armed Forces are away from the main galaxy, then who would be around to quell rebellions? Well, that's the thing. If the Empire is successful and brings about an age of prosperity, then it wouldn't have to worry about rebellions anywhere near as much. Granted, the Empire would likely plunder new systems for everything they were worth, and commit an incredible amount of questionable acts on the local populace. However, the Empire's citizens would not be too concerned with what happened, so long as they and their galaxy prospered. In fact, we know the unknown regions show potential, as upon the Empire's defeat, the Imperial remnants fled to the unknown regions to regroup, and it's where the First Order turned from a beaten Imperial military to a galactic powerhouse. In fact, Starkiller Base was actually a planet from the unknown regions, which shows the potential available for systems in that region. To conclude, I believe the Empire could have been incredibly successful if they chose to expand into the unknown regions, and this may have led to a more peaceful and long-lasting empire. But what do you think? Is this possible, or would it all end in tragedy for Sidious? Please put your opinions and scenarios below, as I thought this was a pretty interesting idea. Also, please like and sub for more Star Wars content, and I'll see you next time.